Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Steve and Tim at Phantom History House. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing well, and you?
I am doing great. It's our last live event of the year. Thank you so much for watching, and welcome to Phantom History House Call. All right, everybody. So tonight we are in a haunted castle mood.
We are in a haunted castle mood and in a haunted castle in the UK mood.
Very cool. So our wonderful guest, Leon McAnally, is stayed up late over in the UK to talk with us. We're going to bring him on in just a few minutes. And if you're watching, thank you so much. Please say hello, type in the comments, let us know where you're watching from. And of course, happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas and all that. Ho, 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 and presents for pretty girls and all that stuff.
Presents for pretty...
What is Charlie Brown Christmas? Come on.
Sorry. We haven't watched that yet this year. So, yeah, I mean, Christmas is a week away. New Year's is two weeks away. So it's hard to believe we're at the end. And we realized the other day that we have been doing this live for a full year. We started at the beginning of January.
I can't believe it. It's really flown by, so to speak.
It has.
Yeah. And so anyway, we're going to be talking about ghosty stuff, castles in the UK. It's going to be very, very interesting. Before we do, I want to remind you that we are here. If you need a break from all the holiday craziness, come have a nice quiet stay with us during this time. Of course, Steve, it might be too early in the game, but I think I'm going to ask you all the same. What are you doing New Year's?
Right. New Year's Eve. Come spend it with us.
People are signing off left and right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, everybody.
Hey, Kristen. Hey, Chris. Thanks for watching. Yeah, we're great at New Year's getaway. Last year, we had a couple of guests here, and we did the fire out front. It was just very quiet. We did like a midnight toast with some champagne and or sparkling cider.
In our crystal champagne flutes. Nothing but the best here, everybody. So come have some champagne with us on New Year's Eve.
Before then, we are doing, one more time, Christmas Ghost Stories Around the Fire this Saturday.
Right.
In front of the house. It was a huge success last week. We had a really great crowd.
Yeah, it was really good.
We were packed. There was no more seats left, which is great. So if you are looking for one last spooky Christmas thing to do before the big holiday, come hang out with me by the fire, and I'll tell you some of my Christmas ghost stories, some of which take place in England and in the UK. So, tying that into our conversation.
And we know that you already have your shopping finished. You're relaxing, sitting around drinking your eggnog. So come on and join us. Have some time with us. By the way, if you're looking for a last-minute stocking stuffer, I thought I would recommend what would be better than our wonderful anthology, Phantom Menagerie. Available on Amazon, or if you need your copy fast, come to Phantom History House. We have them here.
Yes, and you can also order on Amazon The Guide to Dark Attractions in the UK, which is the subject of our conversation tonight with the gentleman that put this together, Leon McAnally. And we're going to talk to him about, we had him on, I don't know, a couple months ago, talking about the book when it first came out. And I've had a chance to kind of read through it now. And there's a whole section in here about Oxford Castle. And the interesting thing about this is it talks a lot about the history, but it doesn't talk a whole lot about the supernatural side. It says, this has been reportedly haunted. So I have lots of questions to kind of get further into that.
See if we can pry that out of him. I think we're very excited that you're watching. Thank you, Leon, for being with us. And are we ready to move forward?
We are. And hello, Jen. Thanks for joining us. Our wonderful scare actor from Sir Henry's Haunted Trail that we went to a couple of weeks ago.
Oh my God, we have to say something about that. We had such a good time. I love the Christmas one, like the Halloween one. It was just spectacular, of course. But the Christmas one, I don't know, making Christmas a little scary and creepy is so much fun.
Yes, and they got you good a couple times, not only in the houses, but as we were exiting the house too, which was fantastic.
Yes, that one house with the Krampus one. Oh my God, I screamed. And then the second time we went through it, some rat-faced guy followed me all the way through the house. It was amazing. Yes, I screamed a lot. But it was cathartic. It's good for you.
There was a creature stirring, and it was a big old mouse.
Yeah. Look at you. See, yours are better than mine. I'm trying to make the references. And by the way, my favorite thing at this year's Sir Henry's Haunted Trail was in the other house, which was something about knives, silent knives.
Silent knives.
Yeah. There was a place where you're going through, there's this little courtyard, and the guy comes flying out and slides on his knees all the way across right at us. It was fantastic. He timed it perfectly. It was amazing.
It scared you both times.
Yes. I ended heard a lot of screaming that night, but we had such a good time. So anyway, thank you everybody at Sir Henry's for making that so much fun. And
remember, they do a Valentine's version as well.
I am ready.
So we will be back.
I'm ready. All right. So enough about all that. Enough holiday stuff. Come see us, everybody. We hope that you will book your stay on New Year's Eve or anytime during the holiday season, or make your plans for your getaway for next year. You ready to bring in Leon?
Absolutely. Let's bring him on in.
All right. Let's bring on Leon. Hey, Leon, how are you?
Hello, Tim and Steve. Are you all right? Thank you for having me.
Well. Thank you so much for tuning in from the United Kingdom over in Britain. We appreciate you staying up late to chat with us once again. Your second visit with us here on House Calls, and love the decor behind you.
I know. I'm gonna zoom in on him so everybody can see this fantastic setup. Love it, Leon.
Yeah, thank you. I just thought I'd make it look a little bit Christmassy, but I'm not gonna lie. I think I could do with a break to yours after the festive period. I'll just bring my hot tub, maybe.
There you go.
All right, I like the sound of that.
Yeah,
Very good. So, I know a lot of people saw you the last time you were here. Why don't you introduce yourself, just in case anybody didn't see it?
Yeah. So I'm an author of a guide to dark attractions in the UK. So it's the first dark tourism guidebook to span the whole of the UK with over 300 places. So all places linked to like death, disaster, tragedy. That could be man-made, natural disasters. But its important part is kind of the historical kind of element kind of to them tragedies and disasters, really. So yeah, it took me 3 years to write and was a bit of a mission and all good fun. But I'm still kind of working with a lot of the attractions. So Oxford Castle I work closely with, and also the kind of Coffin Works as well I continue to work closely with.
The last time we chatted, I hadn't gotten a chance to read through any of it. We were just talking like in general, and I have had a chance to read through it now, and there is so much information in this book. And it's so concise and so well written and to the point where you feel like you are armed with the information you need to go in there and understand what the place is that you're going to see.
Yeah, very cool.
I also confessed to Leon before we went live that my geography of the UK is horrible. So thank you for including these amazing maps, because I was like, oh, that's where that is. I had no idea. So.
Yeah, very helpful.
Is it what you expected, both of you?
It's more than I expected, actually. It's a lot more detailed than I was kind of expecting, which was a great surprise. But also briefer than I thought as well. So it was kind of like a mix of, I guess I didn't know what to expect. But
well, I mean, he had to get all of the dark attractions in the UK in one book. So
I mean, just as a sample, I mean, look at this.
All right, hang on, let me make it.
I don't know if you can see that or not, but yeah, there's a lot of, this is just one spread. I mean, that's a lot of information, and that's covering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different places on that page.
Very cool.
Wow, the layout's really cool. So, but we want to talk about a couple of specific locations. One of them being Oxford Castle and the paranormal side of that. But before we jump in, Leon, are you a paranormal investigator? Did you go with investigators? How did a ghost hunt of that location become part of your evening?
Well, I worked with Oxford Castle and Prison quite closely with doing their kind of writing for my book, because that was the kind of main kind of point of my book, is making sure the factual kind of history element was correct. And after kind of that and it publishing and everything, they kind of invited me to an evening at Oxford Castle with Kieran, who does Most Haunted. And he was doing the tour, and it was kind of, come along, we'd like you to join us. So I was kind of invited there for the evening, and it was, my first paranormal kind of experience, really, proper experience. Like, I've gone to haunted kind of places and things, but not on a kind of investigation to seek out kind of elements of the paranormal. But I didn't know what to expect. But some of the things that did happen, I didn't expect. So,
Well, I mean, this place dates back to 1071. I would say, if I remember, but I totally just read it because I have it open in my lap. So back to 1071. So that's a lot of history in a place that has served as a castle, as a prison. There were battles there. I mean, so there's a lot of stuff in that history.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's full of kind of events going on there. Like, as you said, it's been a prison for a number of years. It was up to 1996. It was a prison too, I think, from 1531. But I think there was a change.
Long period of time to be one thing.
Well, that's what's so cool about, across the pond is like things aren't just 30 years old and there's a new Taco Bell. Like this stuff's been around a really long time. It's very cool. So I would assume that like going on a paranormal investigation is creepy and scary unto itself, at least for someone like me, right? So I can't imagine doing that in a castle or any sort of structure that's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Like that has to up the level of sort of, I don't know, excitement, reality, thrill, scares, all that.
Well, we actually started in the crypt, so it was like set kind of the scene really, and it was a bit. It was a bit. I think being in kind of a old kind of castle prison and knowing like it's been a prison for such a long period of time and that there's bound to be deaths and everything there. And starting in that kind of crypt was a bit spooky, daunting, not knowing what to kind of expect, and kind of got my senses kind of heightened, and kind of set the scene really for the evening.
So you did say crypt?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I was understanding that. By the way, if you're watching and you have any questions for Leon, please type them in the comments. So you spent the evening in the crypt, or is that where it started? Did you say?
That's where it started. So we started in there. It was kind of a Prosecco evening, Prosecco reception. And they said like this is kind of the oldest kind of part of the castle and prison, and would have been used by monks and things. And then that's where we was kind of divided into two groups, and one of us was led by Kieran, another group was led by his kind of assistants, and we was kind of split up. One of us went up to like the castle mound, where they would have been kind of the wooden fortress what was originally built there, and it was quite nice, like I'm not gonna lie, because it was like there was fireworks going on, Diwali was going on. So we're standing on kind of castle mound and kind of over just looking down at the castle, and it kind of set the scene. It set the scene for me of back, like you standing on top of there was kind of like, well, you got the realization like of battles taking place at the castle and stuff, and it set the kind of scene. The other group then was visited the punishment cells, and that's not normally open to the public, and we kind of swapped over. So after visiting the mound, we went to these punishment cells, and that was really like daunting, like dark, like it had like just two rooms and like these wooden beams across the rooms where prisoners would have been chained up and just left there in the dark.
Well, and that's a great example of, the crazy things that places this old that were used for these kind of things. They saw so many people come through there at the low point of their lives. Conditions weren't great, which makes sense why that energy would be trapped there. So I'm wondering, like, did they have like paranormal equipment, like EMF meters and spirit boxes? I mean, what kind of stuff did they do? And did they catch anything or pick up anything?
They didn't bring that stuff with them, but a girl called Alice, who's my friend now, who I'm meeting tomorrow actually for lunch, she bought this app on her phone that apparently could speak with spirits and stuff. And we had it after our our dinner that we had there, that we was re-split up, and then we was kind of taken into cells, and she brought up this app, and I was like didn't know anything about it, to be honest with you, and she was like, right, I'm gonna put this on the floor and like it was only a group like of her sister, and another couple, and we kind of stood round. And that's where it started like getting a bit weird. Like there was like this act was throwing out words, and like we'd ask for a name, and it came up with Bob was the name. But I'll come back to that in a moment as well, because it's very weird actually. And while I was standing there and was holding hands, I actually felt something like brush my ear. And I felt a bit strange. Like I did feel like brush my ear, and then I felt a bit strange. And I was like, and they were like, "You're right." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Like, I'm not gonna step out of here." I was a bit weirded out because I was like, "Is it anything? Is it just like your mind, or is there something there?" And then like with this kind of spirit like act, but I can't remember the name of it now, what it was called after I asked her, was throwing out kind of just words. I can't really remember something like was like some of the words like leave or like witch, or and I was just like, right, okay. And we went into this, we then got taken into another cell, what we changed into. And it's the app that she was using throughout, I think, Larry and Harry. But it kind of went a bit quiet. But so the gentleman who was a couple, he took a photo and it's on my blog, and you can see me standing in the corner, and there's kind of these other figures that are on that side of the room, but there was nobody on that kind of area of the room. Like they were standing, like I was standing, I can't explain, like I was standing on the far wall, and Alice and her like sister was standing to the side on the right hand side, and the couple who was taking the photo was standing up against the back to take the photo. So these shadowy figures, I don't know, they just look a bit unusual.
So when they took the photo, did they show you like right away and say, "Hey, here you are, but there's weird stuff going on around you"? Is that how that went?
Can you hear me? So frozen.
Oh,
hey everybody! If you're watching, make sure you put your questions into the comment section for Leon. Leon, are you back with us?
Yeah, sorry.
So why don't you ask that again?
So I was curious when you were talking about this photo that was taken of you with these shadowy figures near you. We have digital photography now, so I'm guessing they like took the pictures and like showed you the picture. And so were you still in the room when you saw what was standing near you?
But the bit unusual about the picture is that I saw the picture and there was a kind of shadowy figure, and I said to him, "I'll send it to me." And it wasn't until I got home the next day and I was fiddling around on lighting in it, the image, because of how dark it was in there. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of showed one shadowy figure near to me a bit more, but then it showed another shadowy figure and another kind of looking face one. So it wasn't to actually lighten the image that these other kind of little figures kind of appeared. But it was a bit freaky.
Well, I guess so. And one of our folks watching on Instagram, Eric with VOA Investigations, thanks for tuning in, Eric. Once was talking about, you said something brushed your ear. And he said, "Wow, I wonder why it went for his ear." Do you have any idea what that was? Did it feel like a hand? Was it a breeze? What was it that touched your ear?
I don't know. It literally just felt like something like had brushed against it. Like it was just really brief, really like it was really light. And I can't explain it. Like it was just, it was just literally like it wasn't a breeze. I know it wasn't a breeze because it felt like something had like touched it.
Right. Well, and you said that you got on the obelisk, which I think is what the app was you're probably using, where you got these words. You got the name Bob, I think is what you said.
Yeah. Well, at the end, the apparently we met up, all of us, at the end with Kieran, and he was saying about that cell and it being very haunted. What we didn't realise, like, we wasn't told that beforehand. And he said, like, there's a number of names that have appeared over the years and stuff. But he said the most name that seems to come up and stick to that cell is the name Robert. Well, Bobby is actually a nickname of Robert. So it was I was like, God, that's a bit strange, because this name Robert's come up and a Bobby came up. But we was left in the dark in these cells as well.
Wait, what? Wait, they turned the lights out while you were in there?
Yeah, they turned the lights out.
Did you know this was going to happen?
They said it was going to go out, but they didn't tell us when, or like when it was going to happen, or anything, or how long it was going to happen for. We were standing in these cells, and then next minute the lights just went out, and for the rest of the evening we was in them 2 cells in the dark, and then in that crypt we started in, we went back down to, and we all stood in the dark as well.
Are there like flashlights or lanterns?
No.
I'm trying to picture this, Leon. Like I'm getting a little freaked out for you. Like how does this work?
Is it like you've got your guides, so you had your guides with you, so they did have like a torch on them, but you got the light kind of shining through the window, so you could see a bit in the cells. But when we was in the crypt after we'd done the cells in the dark, it was kind of really dark. Like, I think, like, because we all stood in a group, because we'd been divided up into smaller groups to go into the cells, because obviously we wouldn't have all fit in a cell. So the smaller groups met up with their big group, and like we went down to this crypt, and we kind of all stood there holding hands. And Alice was using this app, and words were kind of flying out then, like leave, and it was saying like witch, and it did say religion, and that was an unusual with it saying religion, it being known to be used by monks and stuff.
Mm-hmm. You said it was a monastery. And you said there were what, 4 or 5 people in each group?
Yeah. So what happened is that when we started as a big group, they were divided up into 2 groups, and then to do the punishment cells, we then met at dinner. We was divided then back up into 2 groups. That group then was further split up to go into cells, and kind of you then switched around on the cells, and then you then did the crypt as one group, but like half of the second group, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you had this experience going in the cells, spending time in the crypt, hanging out on the mound, like all this stuff. Like when you think back on that whole experience, was there like a moment or a location that was like especially unnerving or creepy?
That cell where it was the one cell where I had that Bobby name came up, and something like it just brushed my ear, and I just felt a bit, I don't know if I felt a bit lightheaded, and like I know it spooked me out because I did jump, like, and I like because we was all holding hands, like the 5 of us. And we're like saying things like they're saying, is it like, I think Alice was saying, like, is anybody here? Please let us know. And I was just very dark. And I said, like, is anybody here? Is anybody being killed here? I was very kind of dark in the way I spoke. I was like, and then like, throughout these words, and then maybe I hadn't thought about it now. Maybe I was too dark in what I was asking. That's why somebody brushed my ear.
Lighten up, buddy. Well, I know that when I've gone on some paranormal investigations. I don't believe you have.
I have been adjacent to some investigations here at Phantom History House.
True.
I've walked in and been a small part of something,
So,
but I have never like tallied forth to do such investigation myself.
well, and the reason I bring that up is I know that, depending on where you are, you go and you start an investigation, and whoever is representing the venue, will give you like some history, but they don't try to do anything too specific because they want you to kind of have experiences. And then at the end, they're kind of like, okay, here's the rest of the history, and here are things that have happened. So according to them and on your experience, do you know who is haunting Oxford Castle in prison? I mean, obviously it's probably a long roster of people, but are there like certain names or historical figures that you recognized?
Not really. Like, there's a number of, like, they did go through kind of some really famous kind of haunting, like, sightings that have happened there, and they kind of show us some other pictures that had been taken. So, like, they did show us some pictures of the crypt, and there was kind of an outline of a hooded figure sitting down at the side of the room, and there was a hooded figure in the doorway as well. That kind of looked a bit like the image that we'd caught in one of the cells. And they kind of spoke about a child as well, apparently being sighted and heard, I think, giggling. And then they said about a couple that they visited the room in one of the debtors' towers, and I think there was a couple, and the lady was very into this paranormal like investigation, but her fellow, I think, who was involved in the police, wasn't interested or anything and didn't take any interest. And they were on one of these tours, and they went into a room to just have a look. And apparently there was a guy, like an old man sitting in the corner of the room, kind of scratching against the wall. And they kind of stopped dead in fear. And he kind of apparently grabbed her hand, and they left like there and then. And they wouldn't stay. So they was telling us about these other experiences, and I was like, thank God that didn't happen to me.
And it's funny, Eric just asked a question on Instagram that I was about ready to ask. You talked about your ear getting brushed. Did anybody else in your group have other similar experiences like that you recall? Did anybody else see or hear or feel anything?
I think there was kind of, Alice and her sister, I think there was a bit of a change in temperature. Like, they felt like they would feel one moment hot, then cold. Or when we was down the crypt, like, I think I was just feeling really normal. I think like her sister was feeling really hot at one point. So I think there was a bit of the kind of temperature changing with them. But I'm trying to think, because it happened the weekend of Halloween. So I'm just kind of remember back to it now. Seems a while ago.
Well, and what's so fascinating about these places is you go and then you hear the history, and then it's like, okay, what happened tonight, and what did they tell me that happened? And then trying to keep everything straight in your head can be tricky, because it is such a unique experience being in these dark places with so much history around you and potentially paranormal activity. Again, I've been into a couple places like that, and it's a very cool experience, and it makes me want to do it again, which is one of my questions for you is, would you go on another paranormal investigation?
Well, you saying that. Me and Alistair, I met at Oxford Castle Prison on the tour. We're actually looking at doing some ghost investigation at a old prison and staying the night.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're actually meeting tomorrow to have lunch, and we're actually going to discuss about getting her sister, me, and maybe a couple of others. And then it'll be Shrewsbury Prison that's in my book as well. And they offer nights that you can stay there the night. And I think, and you can explore go around the prison in the nighttime and stuff. so yeah, we're going to look at staying the night there. So I'm a bit nervous to stay the night in prison. I'm not going to lie.
I think you're very brave to even consider it, and I can't wait to hear about it. So I think you should definitely do it, because that will make for another great episode.
Absolutely, to hear these experiences. Yeah.
I think you're very brave to have done the thing you're describing. I mean, I know that you know, a lot of people that do a lot of investigations, but I don't know.
But again, I think being in a place that is as historic as that,
it's amazing.
Going back to, the 1000s, on the calendar is, that's a long time ago. 1,000-year-old place to go check it out is amazing.
Yeah.
We don't have that here, unfortunately.
I think it is a very unique experience. I think, because I briefly visited a haunted pub in Chester, my haunted hotel, and the gentleman who owns it, lovely gentleman, and he, you can go and stay the night there, and it's haunted, and they do ghost investigations, and they have haunted doll on display and everything. And he showed me around. I'm just trying to compare the experiences, and he showed me around this pub and hotel, and told me the history and stuff. And then I said, "Oh, I want to take some pictures." And he was like, "Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. Just you can wander around." And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be wandering around on my blooming own." So I went round taking photos, and I think it's a different experience when you're doing it on your own to doing it in a group, of people. I think your mind is working a bit more, because I was constantly looking over my shoulder when I'm walking around this haunted upstairs pub, on my own. And he's got a room full of items that are supposedly haunted, and that have been sent to him. And then it's got cards saying what's happened in rooms and stuff and whatnot, and it's a very haunted. The decor was haunted as well and stuff and whatnot. And when I was walking around there, I was I'm looking around, looking over my shoulder, feeling a bit on edge. But doing it with somebody in a group, I think you're more, I don't know, you're interlinked kind of a bit more together on the experience and stuff, because you're asking, how does each other feel? And are you do you feel anything a change in temperature and stuff?
Well, yeah, it's a shared experience. And I was told one time that, when you go on these paranormal investigations and you do go into a space by yourself, you're not afraid that you're by yourself. You're afraid that you might not be by yourself, because you don't know what's in there, because you know where everybody else is. So it's funny how your mind can work too, because you hear every little thing. I remember doing an investigation last summer, and I had left the group to go find the other part of the group. I was just being the nosy photographer, reporter guy. And I'm walking through this, it was on a ship, and I'm walking through this dark cargo hold, and I just stopped for a minute. I'm just I am that guy in every movie that gets killed off early, because I'm just walking through here by myself. So it kind of makes you reevaluate kind of where you are and what you're paying attention to.
Your choices, perhaps.
And my choices, perhaps. Yeah.
No, I think it's very cool. And I'm assuming that being a historian of haunted places and having created this book, and having researched it and everything, then it must, it feels like your experience would be so heightened because you've done the research, you know about it. That must make it even better for you.
Yeah, I think, with my book, it's a very factual kind of book. That was the kind of core elements when I was doing the book. And when I'm still going to these places, it's what factual information? Yes, okay, there's this haunted kind of paranormal aspect to it, but I want the factual kind of information from that kind of thing. That's what I'm kind of looking for. So when the name of Bobby's coming up on a phone, and then I'm told half an hour later, well, the name most associated with that cell is Robert, and I know the nickname of Robert is Bobby, I'm thinking, is there kind of a link kind of there?
Yeah.
And it kind of then makes me want to kind of dive into kind of their records and stuff. So I think me and Alice, when we meet tomorrow, we're looking at Shrewsbury Prison, and then we're going to go there, stay the night, and see what experience happens. Whatever kind of happens there, we then want to then still work with the museum to see what factual information we have gotten in that experience, if that makes sense, and see if it links up with what they've got at the end of the day.
Sure.
Yeah, that's how all those investigations work. Everybody compares their notes, talk about what you experience, and then then it goes down to the debunking. Well, we heard that too, but it was probably this, or we heard that too, and we don't know what it is, and here's the historic side. So it's funny, I've learned that paranormal investigations don't end when you leave the place, because you got to go over all the experiences, all the recordings, and all of that. And I know that there are 300 places in here that we could talk about, and most of them are likely haunted. And we had planned to talk about another location, but we're running short on time, so we'll have to have you back to talk about that one.
Well, and I think we need to have him back after his night at the Shrewsbury
100%
prison, was it?
Yeah, definitely come back on and discuss it.
Assuming that you're still with us and you're all in one piece. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Ho, everybody. Nobody had very many questions tonight, but I guess everybody was just on the edge of their seat.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Like, it's just, Oscars just a really unique kind of place. It's got over 1,000 years of history at the end of the day to that site. And as it says in the book, there's kind of unusual executions that happened there. And there's kind of battles that have taken place, and it's been a prison at the end of the day. So I think there's just a lot of history to that site. And I think that's why there's probably a lot of kind of activity as well there.
I think the word brutal was used a few times in this description that I'm reading through. You talk about the treatments of the prisoners and the executions, and there's a lot of heaviness, I'm sure, in that amazingly beautiful place. But I love that you have that haunted perspective to go along with your historic perspective of the location. Now, I think that's very cool how those two things can kind of line up together.
When I was writing each kind of place, I think it's even like the first kind of entry of the gentleman who murders the woman he loves. Like, I tell the history, and then kind of I mention about the haunting, because I find that you've got to give the history aspect, and then you can kind of mention if it's supposedly haunted, or if there's a haunted kind of aspect to it. Because I think the woman's meant to know to walk the moors in a Sunday best in the 1st century, but I wanted to make sure that I gave all of that kind of information and gave kind of the reason to why that paranormal kind of aspect might be there. And
the history part again, of course, you're saying here the castle was built in 1071 by Robert de Oily, probably saying that wrong, at the request of William the Conqueror. So there's your Bobby and there's your Robert name. Right from the very beginning, the place was built by a Robert. So I love it when all that connects together.
Okay, wow.
I feel so smart because of your
book. Everybody, we're talking to Leon McAnally, and this is his book. And this book is a perfect stocking stuffer gift for the person that loves dark attractions. And of course, you can always check out our book, Phantom Menagerie. I have to tell you, Leon, you're such an interesting person to talk to. Of course, I could just sit here and listen to you talk all night because, you
love the accent.
We all, how Americans love the accent. But even with that, I think it's amazing. I know you worked so hard on the book, and Steve is really enjoying reading it and studying it and then getting to talk to you. So it's exciting to get to fill in the blanks like that.
Absolutely. And this is our last Phantom History House calls of 2024.
It is.
We are already lining up guests for early next year. Yes. And some of those guests are going to be tied into the next season of the podcast, Phantom History, which is coming back for season 6.
That's right.
In January.
You're working hard on the podcast, everybody. So watch for new podcast episodes after the beginning of the year. And Leon, I want to thank you again for being with us. I have to say in closing that I'll let you say one last word, Leon, but I really think Prosecco in the Crypt is a fantastic name for a spooky story. And I think you should start on that one right away. Or I think we should create an event here at Phantom History House, Prosecco in the Crypt.
Maybe that's next year's Halloween thing.
Oh,
Yeah. I love it. That is a great idea. All right, you heard it here first, everybody. Get your tickets now for Prosecco. That's really
I don't
interesting.
even know what that's going to look like.
I
But okay.
don't know.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. So, Leon, what would you want to say in closing? What would you want to leave anybody watching with?
I hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas at the end of the day. Thank you for watching, and Happy New Year to everybody. Even if you don't decide to purchase a copy at all, just have probably a read on the summary page of Instagram to see if it is something my book would be of interest to you. Because I'm sure you'll find some interesting information out in it about a number of places that you probably didn't know about. But Happy New Year and Happy Christmas to everybody. And
well, thank you. And we're so glad we got a chance to connect with you this year. One of the many great surprises of this year. So
absolutely. And as we said at the beginning, Leon is in the UK, so he's staying up way past midnight for us tonight. So, Leon, thank you so much for doing that. A great, exciting, interesting interview as usual.
Absolutely. And we will talk to you again. And thank you, everybody, for checking it out. And whether you're watching live or you're watching this recording. And remember, come check us out at phantomhistoryhouse.com and come spend a night or two with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you know anybody that you think would enjoy this conversation, share it with them. Of course, it will be on all the socials where it is right now.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Leon. Great job.
thank you for having me. See you later.
Bye, everybody.